see you guys in the dark.
Crazy cat lady without cats describes her best. I rented the first floor apartment in our house. The doorbells and mailboxes were behind a large metal gate on the driveway to the garage, and it was almost always locked. People could not ring, and mail would not get delivered. I got a cheap doorbell from Amazon, thought that would solve it. Landlady secretly stole the battery from it at night, told me that the mailman probably did it. The mailman happened to be annoyed with anyone that he couldn't reach the mailbox for, or get anyone to open the gate. He yelled to me from the parking lot if he had mail for me. After 2 months, and me starting to look for a new place, the landlady had informed me that she had gone through her notes of who visited me, when, and how, especially for how long that they stayed. It was just too hectic for her to keep track of. I was the only tenant, and usually away for work all day. My only visitors were those on the weekends. Due to that, she had installed a security camera right outside of my door. She also went through my trash, and if a glass had accidentally found its way into the regular kitchen trash, it would stand on my stairs, filthy as it was, with a note to please put the glass in the container across the street. After 3 months, I had left in a hurry and moved to a place a few streets away. The landlord here was 1,000 years old, nearly blind, according to himself, and he fancied him a handyman. He repaired a leaking bathroom sink after breaking into my apartment by removing all pipes in the bathroom, leaving it like that for 3 days to get spare parts. The bathroom was underwater, and the water to the kitchen had been turned off. After that, I had changed the locks and asked him not to repair things that were not broken and wait for me to come home if he needed to check something. The only reason I caught him in the bathroom mess was someone giving me a ride home from work. I had arrived 30 minutes earlier than usual. Landlord openly admitted he thought I wouldn't be home that early. After this little fallout, I never caught him in my apartment ever again. But 2 weeks later, he replaced all the locks in the house, including mine. Having access again, he moved furniture around, usually for access to radiators, pipes, and other things to repair, when I wasn't at home at least. I kept locking the doors to the apartment, except the living room and kitchen, just to find huge amounts of flies in there, like hundreds, called pest control. They couldn't find the source, though. I found it a few months after moving out. Landlord and sports fishing store, biting bait, smiling at me like Hannibal Lecter. My oven wouldn't work for 21 months. The landlord decided to replace the entire kitchen with a second-hand one that didn't really fit the space. My hubby was working night shift and sleeping during the day while the builder worked, and the landlord had helped. They made no effort to section the kitchen off the rest of the house during this, so each night when I came home, I had to vacuum, sweep, dust, and mop as best as I could amongst the boxes of kitchen stuff stacked wherever it would fit in the house. Fed the poor kids crap takeaway 4 days in a row. They also had left the back door and front door open at the same time, and one of my dogs decided to take himself for a jaunt around the neighborhood. Got picked up by the ranger, $750 in fines, and bail to bust him out of the pound. Not even an apology, let alone waiving my rent for 2 weeks to make up for the expense. We also had to replace the fence down one side of the yard to ensure the dogs were safely contained out of our own pockets. About 12 months prior, my husband had lost his shit, threw the landlords out of the house the day he was woken up by the sound of a grinder and dust pouring through the door jamb of our bedroom. Went out to the kitchen to find the builder had gone to lunch. The landlord had decided he was going to save some money by reusing the splashback tiles. That's fine. We already knew that he was a tight ass anyways. What wasn't fine was he had taken the tiles off and revealed an asbestos wall underneath, and was grinding the excess grout off the back of the tiles, filling the entire house with asbestos-laden dust. In the end, my husband did most of the finishing on the crappy kitchen, regrouping and doing all the kickbacks, plugging up big holes inside the cupboards, things like that, because the landlord went overseas for 5 weeks and hadn't paid the builders what he was owed. 2 months later, we had a house inspection and were served with a notice of rent increase by 25% due to the improvement in kitchen facilities. Didn't matter the shower base was leaking, and they refused to let the plumber install a new thermostat on the heater. But we'd lived there for 8 years and would have paid it just to skip the inconvenience of moving once again. I made the mistake of telling the real estate agent about the asbestos debacle and having a bit of sulk around the extra expenses we had already worn because of their tight-fisted ways. And that notice was promptly followed a week later by an eviction notice. We moved 4 days before Christmas, cleaned out our very mere savings, so there was no tree, no decorations, and no presents for our kids until about a month later when we could afford it. Worst landlord ever. Nearly 2 years later, and I still rage when I think about it. My boyfriend's parents own the place that we live in, and while yes, it is great that they helped us out with a place to stay, sometimes the stress that his mother puts on us is really hard to deal with. Boyfriend's mom is paranoid, schizophrenic. She directs the paranoia at us very, very frequently. I dread coming home from work because on several occasions we have come home to her waiting outside for us. She will sometimes crack open her front door when we pull up and watch us through the crack. She's also notorious for standing outside and trying to hear what we talk about through the walls, because she is convinced that all we do is talk about her. On several occasions, we have come home to obvious signs that she has been in our house. Once our bedroom ceiling fan had been replaced with a normal light fixture, apparently by magic. On another occasion, I told her that the cat had an adverse reaction to spray on flea medication. We came home to find half of his body covered in the spray. When confronted about this, she claimed that he must have fallen in some. Once we came home to the kitchen cabinets opened with everything pulled out because she was convinced I was lying about not having a filter for her air conditioner. She once had kidnapped my dog and had him in her home while we were outside calling for him. I was convinced that she had taken him off somewhere because she had done this several times with my boyfriend's cat throughout the years. We went to her house to ask if she had seen him. She claimed that she hadn't, and then she had went into her bedroom. A few minutes later, she opened up the door, and my dog had ran out, covered in water. She acted surprised to see him come out of her room, then later admitted that she was trying to get her new, tiny female dog pregnant. She constantly tries to pit her boyfriend's brother, his girlfriend, and me against each other. She will come over and talk for hours about things that my boyfriend's brother has done that really are insignificant. She's a master manipulator, and even though I know what she is doing, it still sometimes takes a good bit of effort to shrug off what she does. My last landlord either was undiagnosed with dementia or paranoid schizophrenia. She would constantly come downstairs to our apartment. She lived upstairs, by the way, and explained to me that she needed help with something like changing the security code on this or that because someone was breaking into the house and stealing her documents. She was constantly calling me at work or emailing me about something new every other day. I got DSL installed because her Wi-Fi wouldn't reach, and she told me that the tech sabotaged her power outlets because they were a competitor of her the cable company provider. She brought me upstairs once to ask me if a pair of kids' swimming goggles belonged to me. I told her that I had none, and she went on to explain that people are breaking into the house and trying to scare her, and this was one of their messages. She also dropped a basketball net on my car, gave my dog human medicine, he's fine by the way, and left our sink leaking for 2 or 4 months while I stayed there. Oh, and when she finally got the sink repaired, she asked me to check our belongings because the guy was a crook and charged her for work that he didn't do. It was like living in a madhouse. I dreaded coming home every single day. On the day that we left, we called the cops because apparently during the 15 minutes we were going to get the U-Haul, someone broke into the house for more documents.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.